Call this regular meeting of the Stuart City Commission to order at 5:59 p.m. Mr. Dias, would you please read the statement?
Pursuant to Executive Order Number 20-69 issued by Governor Ron DeSantis on March 20th, 2020 and extended to August 1st, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location, and utilizing communications media technology such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Florida Statute 120.54. Procedures for public comment by device. If you wish to speak during public comment times, click raise hand at the bottom of your window during the item you wish to speak on. Your microphone will be unmuted when you are called to speak. Your microphone will be deactivated once your commenting time has expired. By phone, press *9 to raise your hand. You will be called by your partially displayed phone number, so please listen for that phone number. The host will unmute and remute you when your time has expired. Please state your name and address prior to commenting. Board members or commissioners are asked to advise if they are here in person or remotely when the clerk calls the roll. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dias. Ms. Kendall, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Meyer,
Here in person.
Vice Mayor Clark,
Here and in person.
Commissioner Bruner,
Here by remote.
Commissioner Matheson.
Here in person.
Thank you. Please join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all, and I do apologize. Thank you for your patience. We've had a marathon meeting day, and I apologize that we're starting late today. So thank you for hanging out with us. We'll begin with our presentation of our July Service Awards. I have, for 20 years of service, Miss Charvella Whitehead with the Police Department. Online?
I don't see it.
And I'd also like to acknowledge Mr. Steve Nicolosi for 5 years of service with the Development Department. And for our Employee of the Month for July 2020, I'll turn it over to Mr. Peters.
Good evening, Mayor. Once again, my pleasure to announce Janine Weil as the city's Employee of the Month for July 2020. Janine began her career. Usually, yeah, thank you from my boss. Anyway, Janine began her career with the city of Stuart in June of 2007. Hard to believe it was that long ago. As a division assistant, was promoted to executive administrative assistant in December of 2011, promoted to administrative office coordinator in 2015, and in 2018 promoted to her current position as the Public Works Administrative Coordinator. Janine has previously been recognized as the city's Employee of the Month in April of 2009, March 2011, January 2012, August 2015, and August of 2019. 5 times. She was also recognized as the city's Employee of the Year in 2015. As the Public Works Administrative Coordinator, Janine is responsible for numerous tasks that ensure the Public Works Department is consistent with all administrative functions related to both internal and external coordination. In addition, Janine is responsible for monitoring the Public Works Department's Safety is Priceless safety program, where employees receive incentives for their safety habits. Recently, Janine was the author. You know, I've known you for 13 years and I can't say your name right once. Anyway, recently, Janine was the author of an article in the Florida Water Resources Journal that describes our safety program's objectives, structures, and results. This, along with other safety citywide safety and employee health initiatives emphasize the city's commitment to our most valuable resource. Janine is known throughout the city as the Energizer Bunny in the Public Works Department. Her work is nothing short of outstanding, and she is always looking for opportunities to improve the overall operation of the Public Works Department. As someone that works very closely with her, I can tell you there's not a day that doesn't go by that she doesn't look for something or do something that makes us better. And always willing to accept new challenges and always given new challenges, Janine exemplifies the city's values by treating others with honesty, dignity, consideration, and respect. For the reasons mentioned, I respectfully request that you ask Janine Wild to come forward and be recognized as the city's Employee of the Month for July of 2020.
Sure is interesting to smile behind a mask. But I want to thank you guys. Everything that Dave said would not be possible if it wasn't for each and every one of your support in all of our projects and all of our goals and objectives, and not just with the commission, but our city manager and our department leaders, Dave, Tim, Milton. I get challenges thrown at me every day. We all do here in Public Works. It's crazy. It gives me agita. That's my famous word in the department, but I wouldn't be here 13 years if I didn't absolutely love it. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Wild. Congratulations. Okay, we'll move on now to our update with the Florida Department of Health in Martin County. We'll have Ms. Vitani.
Good evening, and thank you so much once again for the opportunity to present an update regarding our COVID-19 situation here in Martin County. So currently we have 3,451 positive cases. We've had 65, unfortunately, we've had 65 deaths. And the most cases we're seeing now is in zip code 34997, where we've had 1,023 cases. Our positivity rate is still 14.6%, which is above the target range of 10% for what the recommendation is. The public health, so we've done we've seen a leveling off. One thing that's been interesting is we've seen a leveling off in the Indiantown zip code of 34956, where there are currently 894 confirmed cases. You know, and as you know, we had seen an uptick there in Indiantown. So currently, you know, we'd like to think, and we do feel that some of this can be attributed to the mask ordinance that went into effect at the end of April. If you recall, they were one of the first to implement that. And also the extensive public health outreach and education that has taken place in that area. The Department of Health here in Martin has continued to provide education and masks to communities in noted areas where we are seeing an increase in cases. We have and still continue to send out foot teams that have been reaching out to Golden Gate and Indiantown, Hope Sound, and some other areas to provide masks and education. But of course, as you know, our main function is contact tracing and case investigation, and we have adjusted our staff to suit the needs of our caseload. Also, you may know that we have been working very closely with the school district. As you know, they're discussing opening. And so for several months, we've been working closely with them as part of the pandemic response team. And during those meetings, we have provided CDC guidance and best practices for infection control. Last week, we presented an update to the school board. As many of you know, we do not have the authority to determine when or how students return to school, but we, of course, will continue to work closely with the district staff throughout the school year, regardless of what their final return to school plan is. We have a very robust school health program, and our public health nurses have been working with the school district for many years on numerous public health prevention initiatives and outbreaks over the years. Last week, the State Surgeon General also, he updated the public health advisory to include encouraging citizens to avoid the 3 C's, so that you may hear this now, which is close spaces, crowded places, and close contact settings, to avoid those 3 C's. In addition to recommending the 3 C's, of course, is the use of our cloth face coverings, our social distancing, and avoiding social or recreational gatherings of more than 10 people. So you notice that was a significant change because he had recommended 50, now he's back down to 10. And I think this just says a lot about the seriousness of the situation. And although we may be seeing a slight dip in our numbers, we still want to be very diligent about making sure we are practicing those mitigation strategies, those prevention initiatives, that social distancing and the cloth face coverings and hand washing, etc. Testing. Currently, Florida Community Health Center offers a drive-through COVID testing Monday through Friday at their location on Moorfield Boulevard, and they do require an appointment. Their number is 772-597-3596. They will see you, they will test you if you have symptoms or if you don't have symptoms. For anyone experiencing symptoms, particularly Cleveland Clinic, as you know, continues their drive-up testing by appointment through their nurse triage line. And that number is 772-419-3360. Also, there are also free drive-through testing facilities in Palm Beach County through the healthcare district. And their hotline is 561-642-1000. So also, for those of you who haven't heard, the CDC issued a health advisory regarding hand sanitizers, specifically those that contain that methanol, which is toxic. The sanitizers were produced by a company called Esc Biochem S.A. de CV in Mexico. There are serious side effects which include headache, blindness, nausea, vomiting. So only use alcohol-based hand sanitizers or soap and water to clean your hands. And obviously, please check any of your hand sanitizers that you may have. Call the poison control with any control center with any concerns. And as you know, all of this data that I presented is posted for the public on the Florida Health COVID-19.gov website and is updated daily. So that concludes my update for today. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have some.
Thank you, Ms. Vitani. I'm glad you brought up the hand sanitizer recall with the methanol. From what I understand, there are more than 80 different products with different brand names, all being produced by the same facilities. And so I wonder if you, I know that the FDA or the USDA, one of the agencies, maybe the CDC, has the list that they maintain and add to over time. Are you sharing that information with local businesses and retail to make sure that they're recalling their products?
We sent it out
Yeah.
via the
Yeah,
distribution list today,
yes.
but we can expand that to the businesses as well.
Okay. It was Renee. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rouse. I know for just anecdotally, my parents bought an affected hand sanitizer at BJ's not too long ago and had to return it after using it a couple times. So it's out there. Make sure that
Yeah.
that we're all staying aware of that. Are there any questions?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Ms. Vitani, can you give me an update on the turnaround time for testing? Has it changed at all? You know, I've talked to residents and myself.
Yeah.
It's been 7 to 10 plus days, whether it's Florida Community Health Center or Treasure Coast Urban Care.
Yes.
Has there been any
yes.
change on that?
Unfortunately, no, it really is fluctuating. I know that we even heard that Quest is really 10 days out at a minimum, which of course, as you know, that definitely is a challenge. And also, you know, that's why we do recommend, and I know many of the providers are recommending, that if you are tested, it's difficult as it must be to quarantine until you receive your results. But when you're waiting 10 days and then you find out you're negative, you know, it's definitely a challenge.
Err on the side of
so err on the side of caution.
Okay, is there any plan for that in the future? Do you know, is the state working on anything? Or I've heard Cleveland Clinic is a little bit faster, but you have to be having symptoms. Is that?
Yes, that is true. I know the state, you know, is very much aware of the situation, and I believe that they are looking at some other options, possibly, or other labs. But I don't have anything specific right now at this time. But they definitely are aware of the challenges with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Ms.
Vice Mayor.
Vitani, with the coming of the CARES Act to Martin County and Martin County deciding to distribute those funds and whatever materials to Chamber of Commerce's and other places, is your program like to distribute masks and to do education programs? Is that still separate from the county, or are you working closely with the county to help administer anything through the CARES Act also?
Yeah, the CARES Act, we're not involved with, so it is separate. I mean, we work obviously with the county, but as far as those CARES dollars, we are not involved with that at this time.
Okay, so you're doing your own education program
Yes,
still and
yes.
your own distributions, okay.
That is correct.
Thank you, Ms. Vitani. Thank you, Ms. Rouse. Appreciate the update.
You're welcome. Thank you for the
Please,
invitation.
as always, let us know if there's anything that we can help spread the word on.
We appreciate your support. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right, we'll move on to comments by city commissioners. We'll start with you, Commissioner Bruner. Do you have any comment today?
My comment is on our waterman, Dave Peters. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just wanted to, I read where he, I guess he helped write part of that magazine article, like 17 pages. And I'm just so proud of he and his staff and you know, it's the most important thing to our city is our water and all that we're going through. And I tried to learn as much as I can in that article, but it was all science. And but anyway, Mr. Peters, thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. We miss you. Be safe out there.
Thank you.
Commissioner Matheson.
Yes, I did a few things over the past week or two. I got to participate in helping clean up a little bit of East Stewart 2 Saturdays ago on the 18th. And it was an enjoyable time with my family for the morning, but it was still a little disappointing. I probably filled 3 full trash bags full of leftover firework casings. And I know the city and others had cleaned up prior to that. So, you know, we all just got to keep in mind that when we're celebrating, whether it's 4th of July, New Year's, or just a picnic at the beach, you know, pick up after yourselves. You know, last weekend I participated in the Treasure Coast water cleanup this last Saturday. I and my family, we went up Fraser Creek, almost to the bridge there on Colorado, and picked up quite a few buckets of trash and plastic along that creek, and scored a few overhanging mangoes from some trees that you could only reach out of the creek on a skiff, which was a nice benefit. And then we went up Poppleton Creek and did the same thing. No mangoes there, though. I told you all I'd give you an update on the Corps. They had their webinar on the 21st. Mr. Hogarth and I listened in. Their webinar on harmful algal bloom deviation from LORS 2008. And Ben is working on some draft comments, bouncing them off me. I've been in communication with Savannah Lacey, their lead hydrologist, on those issues, and I'm supportive of the deviation. It gives them the flexibility they need, factoring in harmful algal blooms to basically release, say, in the springtime, a little more to the Caloosahatchee or the 350 structures, the three of them south of the lake. But, you know, they use the analogy of a bank account where they could release a little more to the Caloosahatchee, more than the LORS 08 schedule. And there'd be one lump account, so to say. And perhaps, you know, during the summer when the schedule might dictate, you know, in a way to bring the lake down, that we out of the S80 structure would get discharged, say 700 CFS. We could subtract that from their above and beyond releases that they did earlier in the year out of the Caloosahatchee. So it gives the Corps a little bit more flexibility to do that. So, you know, it's not something that we need all commissioners to vote on, but our comments are supportive of their proposed deviation. And, you know, I'm in agreement that they do need that flexibility. Basically, if they predict an algae bloom, a HAB, which there is one now, but that would last, say, 12 months, or they might predict one in the future. So next March, so to say, seeing as how we've had harmful algal blooms the past 3 years in the lake, the chances are that they could say there'd be a high probability there'd be another algal bloom in Lake Okeechobee, and they could work under that deviation schedule than having to work under LORS 08. Other than that, the CARES Act, I'm hoping maybe our staff can come up with an educational plan, if you guys agree, some sort of a little bit more formal to get the word out there that United Way has a significant amount of money to help small businesses and individuals who've been, you know, hurt during COVID. And I'd like to see something from our staff where we can, us as a city, help promote United Way's ability to spread those funds and work with our residents.
You're talking about the COVID relief fund
Exactly.
through the United Way?
I don't know if that would require a motion, but, you know, mostly just direction that we can work, you know, with United Way and with our residents to get the words out there so that people know about the program and the right way to receive the funding and reach out to United Way.
Yes, sir, I'll address that under the manager's comments.
Perfect.
Okay.
And that's all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor?
Okay. I've been trying to talk to employees just to encourage them along the way, and I've been making phone calls, trying to meet as many of them, especially the ones that I don't see all the time, and the department heads, most of them I know, but I've been calling, and in doing so, I had lots of calls come back from people who I couldn't reach, and all the employees were very good, in good morale, good spirits, and I know it's tough times, so I appreciate that. I was on the road and I happened to meet a particular employee, and I'd like to just give him a little shout out. I think his name is Ray Werder. He's with the heavy equipment department, or recycling trucks, whatever, and he's just really an example of an employee who really has the city at heart, even in these tough times, getting out there in the sun, doing whatever needs to happen. and making sure that all our heavy equipment in our trucks and so on are functioning. And I just wanted to say how much I appreciate all of the employees of the city, whether they were on the split time and now most people are back at City Hall. We just appreciate the city almost going seamless on this during this time, and I appreciate that. I heard recently that there was some issue, which I believe is a simple, I think it's a police issue, but I know that some people were very upset in the East Stewart area and they had some kind of a community gathering. That was yesterday. I think maybe a report was made to the police department. I'm sure that the police department and the residents who are interested and concerned have contacted the police and they're doing what they need to do. But it's probably, you know, a private issue or whatever. I'm not sure if Chief knows about that, but I'm hoping that we're handling that appropriately and investigating it appropriately. Okay, thank you so much. And I just wanted to say that I don't want to speak too long today. And I just want to say something that I'm not going to regret saying what I'm going to say. And I'm not going to apologize for what I'm going to say. And I'm just going to say it. And I hope that you can accept it. We're in tough times. And I just want to say something that wasn't written by me. It was written by someone else. And it's age old, but I just like to repeat it anyway. And I hope that I won't get a letter asking me to take back my words or to do something, whatever. I'm not going to apologize. Let me just say these words, and after this, I will not make any more commentary, and meeting goes on. These words are, if we could just listen, center ourselves, and try to focus, either now, later on, if you can remember what I'm going to say. These words are, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just matters of business to remind you all, I do sit on the Treasure Coast Regional League of Cities and the Treasure Coast Council of Local Governments. Due to COVID, our groups have not been meeting frequently at all. We've been doing essential business with the Treasure Coast Regional League of Cities, of which I am the secretary. And then I've reached out, we've canceled every meeting so far during COVID with the Council of Local Governments. And after the last cancellation, I reached out to the board chairman, Indian River County Commissioner Peter O'Brien, and asked if we could have a meeting, even if it were digital, because I think this is the time now, especially with the economic crisis we are facing and will continue to face more substantially. I think our local governments need to work together. So I am pressing on that front, and I hope that we can have a meeting and I can start advocating or bringing back information about what's happening in our region and how we can work together as local governments. And to that point, I was on a call with the National League of Mayors last week. And there's actually a national push to focus on the Florida delegation, especially our senators. There was a request made that our local governments, they were hoping to get the approval of, or the sign off of every mayor and every local government throughout the state of Florida to urge our senators to to authorize the CARES Act, the new funding, as well as to push for those funds to actually, some of them to be used for the replacement of lost revenues in the future. I understand that Senator Scott is completely opposed. He's been one of the most vocal voices opposed to it, but that Senator Rubio is open to it and could potentially be swayed. So I'm asking if it's okay with the commission that that I write a letter on behalf of the city of Stuart to both Senator Scott and Senator Rubio, asking for their support for local governments to be funded in next CARES Act, as well as to ask them, advocate that that some lost governmental revenues could be used by that funding. And yes,
Are you making a motion?
I can't make a motion as the chair, but no, I don't need a motion. It's just I'd like to have support if.
I certainly support that. I've written some emails to Mr. Rubio, Mr. Scott, and that the responses match your description of both their stances.
Yeah.
But I certainly support that.
I think it'll be nice if we have our entire city letterhead.
And is that going to our lobbyists or to the League of Cities? Are they gonna put something together, or we're just sending?
Well, my second part is that the National League of Mayors and the Florida League of Mayors is working to actually have one letter that all of the mayors would potentially sign. So I'd ask for your blessing to sign that letter as well on behalf of the city.
And you'll be working with
You do need a
Mr.
motion.
Mortel or Mr. Hogarth or to draft that?
Yes. Okay, we do need a motion.
Well, if we're drafting a letter, we do need a motion. And are you saying to all municipalities?
No, we're drafting a letter to our Florida Senate delegation.
Right. The Florida senators for federal CARES Act to be funded to all municipalities in the country?
We support funding for local governments in CARES Act, that's the sticking point.
Okay. But no parameters on like the size.
No. And we can work together on the language. There's existing language out there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. So I have a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Matheson and a second by Vice Mayor Clark. Any public comment on this motion?
I see none.
Seeing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. That's it for me. Mr. Dias.
Mr. Mayor, you had also asked for some permission to execute a joint letter as mayor with the League of Cities.
Do you need a motion for that as well?
Well, if you're going to execute it on behalf of the city, then you're going to want authority from the board.
Do I have a motion to sign a letter?
I make a motion that we sign the letter.
Thank you.
Also for
The letter will be coming from the League of Cities on that.
I believe it's the Florida League of Mayors or the National League of Mayors.
It's
But it
actually
will
both.
be
The
the-
League of Cities has now adopted that same
Right.
process.
I don't know exactly who it's coming from. I think it's the league. I think it's the Florida League of Mayors or the League of Cities, but it'll just be a letter with a list of all of the mayors and their signatures. So I have a motion.
Second,
Make the motion, Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor made a motion.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Vice Mayor Clark, second by Commissioner Commissioner Matheson. Any public comment? Seeing none.
Anyone online?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Sorry, it's silly we have to do that, but we have to do that. Mr. Dias.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So Commissioner Bruner was talking about the magazine. So this is the magazine that has our city filtration system on it. There's some very expensive filters on the inside of that, but it does do a few things which eliminates our PFOS and PFOAs in our water. So it eliminates any contaminants, as well as makes our color of our water crystal clear and helps us to win those best tasting water awards. So that is a big deal for us, and it's quite a large article inside there. As it relates to the CARES Act, I can have the Executive Director, Carol, from the United Way come to the next meeting or appear by Zoom, one of the two, to give an explanation of how that process is going to work, if you'd like.
Yes.
Yes, please.
And then I'll work with our communications team on our further educating it as we get information from her. They are doing the rent and mortgage piece of it, and I believe the county in-house is keeping the business piece of it. If you have, from what I understand from the business piece of it, if you have applied for the PPP side of it, that any award would be reduced from what you received from the PPP side. The I have a quick statement to read, as it is that we are in election season. We are currently in what we refer to as an election season. We have city commissioners and citizens that are in an active campaign for re-election. Public comment to address the city commissioners is as a whole. We do not allow politicking, which is defined as advocating the election or defeat of a particular candidate. Use of words, dates, signs, props, and/or wearing apparel or nameplate that convey a message or express advocacy for a person or group of persons is also not allowed. Thank you for your cooperation. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dias. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Move approval of the agenda as published.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Clark and a second by Commissioner Matheson. Do I have any comment on the approval of the agenda as published?
See none online?
Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Agenda is approved as published. We'll move on to comments by the public next. This is a 5-minute maximum comment. This is for non-agended items. This is general public comment to address the board regarding anything other than the items that we have. If you would like to provide comment on those items, please do so when they are being discussed before a vote is called. If you would like to provide public comment, please fill out a green card with Ms. Kindle here. And I will ask anybody providing public comment this evening, and to remind all of my colleagues and staff and anyone giving testimony this evening, please wear your mask as you speak. Do not remove it when you speak. Do we have any general public comment?
If anyone online would like to give general public comment, please click raise hand at the bottom of the screen.
Ms.
Helen
McBride.
McBride from Flamingo Avenue in Stewart. And I agree, we all should be wearing masks. And the county has ordered so and that. But I've been coming downtown every day. I thought I'd support our merchants and our restaurants. On Osceola Street, in the business area, I should say, nobody's wearing masks. Maybe there's 20 people. Sunday, I didn't get out and count because I'm not going to get out. If 4 people have a mask on, you're lucky. And let's face it, our sidewalks are very, very narrow. I mean, we all know it, and there's really nothing we can do about it. But, and I don't feel the police department, in my opinion, is understaffed and they are got a lot on their plate. That a police officer should have to come down. But I didn't know about the gentleman that goes around with the parking 3 hours, which we don't have, thank God, right now. But you've got to do something, and if not, maybe you should just tell the merchants, maybe they could put signs in the window, and if not, the next thing would close down Osceola Street so we'd have room to walk. So, I mean, and I agree, let's all, but wear our mask and that, but it's not being enforced down in the business district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McBride. We don't always have to give response to public comment, but if we're so moved, we may. I just would like to remind everybody that as part of the Martin County emergency order that was adopted, ordinance regarding masks in the county, that businesses are required to post signage on their facade. So I suppose we'll have staff verify that that's.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and I'm sorry I have to break the rules, but I've seen in other places where they have a little footprint, 6 feet apart or something on some sidewalks.
Yep.
Maybe we could try something.
Okay. I mean, those are usually done inside individual stores, like they do themselves inside, but yeah, I mean, I've seen those as well.
I've seen them.
We just got to continue advocating as best we can and calling it when we see it. It's frustrating, but yeah, we'll be better about being on it.
I think it's hit or miss. I mean, I was in downtown today for lunch and everyone had a mask on. So
I've seen it largely
Weekends.
I haven't been around on the weekends. Yeah. Continue to do what we ought to be doing. Next comment by Ms. Betty Brinkley.
Betty Brinkley, 945 Southeast Nassau Avenue, Stewart, Florida. And as usual, Black people of East Stewart a concern about this here extended down situation that you have. They done crossed Martin Luther King over into Lake Street, Southeast Lake Street. So this like, you're gonna push us right on up out of East Stewart and stuff with this here map. It's on here, cross Palm Beach Road over to, so that means you box us in with downtown to box us out. Now, we Black people just want to live in peace. We want to have some, not living in fear that you're gonna tax us out like Jupiter, like City Place. No Black people in Jupiter anymore. Black people. But it's all white, and nothing against white, but dog, we want something. We want homes. We want to live in our Black community. It's still a nice place to live. And I say something, been on my mind for a few years, but when I get up here, I forget to say it. It's like, how many Black people you have in high position, like manager? Milton been here, what? I hope he didn't get mad. What is he, a manager? Or he's your do boy or what? All I hear is he's talking about Milton this, Milton that. If I'm wrong, then I'll apologize. Then Dominique, out to the Civic Center. She been there about 15, almost 20 years. People come in over her and get position. Systemic racism. She gonna teach something. You gonna teach somebody, teach them, and then they gonna come and get over you. I mean, that's gotta be degrading to them, to show something like that to happen. And I say this, ain't no all lives matter. Black lives matter. Black people not killing up white people. It's the opposite. So when somebody say all lives matter, you're in denial of what's really going on. You don't want to face the fight. That is not right. You start showing me you're part of that problem. And I ain't gonna keep long, but I get emotional. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brinkley. If you can, yeah, I'd like to learn more about this map. I'm not familiar with the map, so I don't know what you're talking about. I'd like to help you with that. So if you, let's contact each other after this meeting. Any other public comment?
See none online.
Do I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Becky seconded.
I have a motion by Commissioner Matheson and a second by Commissioner Bruner. I'm sorry, Ms. Bruner, I didn't hear you.
That's all right.
Is there any public comment on consent? Seeing none. Ms. Kendall, will you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Commissioner Matheson,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 8, on commission action, amendment to Hudson's on the River land lease. Mr. Mortel.
This is resolution number 90-2020, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute an addendum to the land lease between the City of Stuart, Florida and Hudson's on the River, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Mortel. Mr. Dias?
Just a quick overview. I'm asking for this extension as it relates to the start of the lease, and lease payments was supposed to be October. We're asking basically this change is to push it back to March or certificate of occupancy, whichever occurs first. There was a delay in time period, which Mr. Mortel did a great job in working out with DEP attorneys on approval of that piece of property as it related to our FERDAP grant that was on that property. It was some mishap as it relates to a boundary map versus legal description, and we do believe that's worked out and that this extension is warranted based on those facts.
Thank you, Mr. Dias.
Mr. Mortel, is everything in agreement currently with the DEP and we're have the ability to move forward?
We don't have anything from the DEP in writing yet that it's resolved. I've told Counsel for Hudson's that I'll provide it upon receiving it. I've spoken to the DEP attorney, And we're in agreement that basically what happened was, and I won't take too long, but when we submitted the application for the FERDAP grant, we submitted an application and there was a border showing the border of the park. In addition to that, we had to submit proof that we owned the land. Well, the proof that we own the land were several deeds that included the entire peninsula. So as a result, the Hudson's property was inside one of the deeds, but outside of the border. So the deed was submitted to show ownership, not to show the bordered area. The attorney and I agreed that we would either get a resolution letter, or if we needed to amend the FERDAP grant retroactively to more clearly articulate that the border was that border map, that we would do so. But they're all working from home and none of them are having joint meetings, so she can't get authority to do it until she gets back after COVID. And I don't want to hold it up for another 4 months for no reason. I stand by it. I provided significant title research to them and our records are clean. We clearly stayed outside of the FERDAP grant and didn't do anything to violate it.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 90-2020.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Matheson and a second by Vice Mayor Clark. Just so we're clear, essentially this is the discrepancy that is being resolved between a visual boundary, an image, a map, and a legal description.
And believe it or not, it's not even a visual question. It's, if you look at the border perimeter submitted, it's only 1/2 of parcel 2. But the person that saw the article in the paper depicted that it included all of the 2, but it was based upon a newspaper article, not the actual grant review.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this before we call a vote?
See none online.
Seeing none. Ms. Kendall, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Matheson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, non ad valorem note for $5 million for the purchase of 301 East Ocean property. Mr. Dias?
Or if I could
Oh,
read it.
sorry, Mr. Mortel.
This is resolution number 94-2020, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, authorizing the issuance of a taxable non-ad valorem revenue note, Series 2020 of the city in the principal amount of not to exceed $50,000 to finance all or a portion of the costs of acquisition, design, renovation, and equipping of all or a portion of real property to be used for City Hall purposes and to be used for community redevelopment purposes, and to pay costs of issuance thereof as further described herein, making certain findings of public purpose and paramount public purpose, providing that the note shall be a limited obligation of the city payable from non-ad valorem revenues budgeted, appropriated, and deposited as provided herein, providing for the rights, securities, and remedies for the owner of the note, making certain covenants and agreements in connection therewith, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Mortel. Mr. Dias?
Thank you, sir. So this is the resolution that executes the note with JP Morgan for the sum of $5,050,000. This is for the Wells Fargo and the adjacent properties to the east of that, which will be eventually redeveloped through a CRA program. As you heard in the previous budget session earlier today, this is not a tax-funded repayment. It is coming from our property management fund, which is basically the proceeds received from leases that the city holds. There are several leases within that property that will stay, combined with the leasings that we currently have in other locations throughout the city. So in that sense, we are probably operating more like a business than ever before. When people say we should operate like a business, it is my recommendation that you move forward with this, with the eventual plan to move City Hall to that location.
Thank you, sir.
So to go over the kind of the terms, we're looking at a 1.295% interest rate, 10 years, payments of roughly $500,000 plus or minus depending on the year for those 10 years. And as our finance director eloquently put it, it's a budget neutral acquisition.
Revenue neutral, yes, sir.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve Resolution 94-2020.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
I have a motion by Commissioner Matheson and a second by Commissioner Bruner. I would just like to say that at our budget meeting earlier today, I was encouraged to hear our finance director describe this project with a slightly different tune than the first time that we spoke, and to reiterate that our property management fund will be covering the payment on the note. And I also would like for us to acknowledge, as you said, Mr. Dias, that we'll continue down the path of planning our eventual transition away from this current property and begin working with various organizations like Main Street, potentially the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, to facilitate that process and come up with designs.
And that will occur in this fiscal year. The plan is to start those workshops in this fiscal year. It may be 3 years out or whatever that we move over there, but we will start in this coming fiscal year with the planning of this piece of property.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, before you call the vote, I'd like to just give a shout out to former mayor and Commissioner Krauskopf, who planted the seed for the property management fund, which grew into a 7-Eleven on Canner Highway, which eventually grew into the down payment of this. So thank you.
You're here. Is there any public comment on this item, on this motion?
Anyone online would like to give public comment, please raise hand at bottom of the screen. Seeing none, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Kendall, will you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Commissioner Matheson,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Our final item on commission action, number 10, authorization to continue property management. Mr. Mortel.
1 second. This is Resolution 93-2020, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, authorizing the city manager to execute a temporary property management agreement for 301 East Ocean Boulevard, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Mortel. Mr. Dias.
This is a, did you have something?
Is there there's no big.
Are you making a motion?
Yeah, I want to make a motion that we approve resolution number 93, 2020. Unless city manager has some.
Nope, I was just going to give you the briefing on it if you wanted.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
You second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Clark and a second by Commissioner Matheson. Would you kindly just give us to the public, for the benefit of the public, a brief overview of
Sure.
what this is
So
about?
NAI South Coast is the current manager of the property. They have been for several years. They do everything from managing leases coming in to leases going out. They maintain all of the property with close communication with the property owner, which would be us. We are not having them manage the properties to the east. We will do that ourselves because those are both short-term leases due to expire middle of 21 or shorter, and then we would roll that into a redevelopment process to the CRA. They will continue to manage both the cancer center and the 3-story building at 301. And I have confidence that it's not something we normally do. We normally have our expertise in land leases and not with a bunch of individual leaseholds in a large building.
Thank you, sir. Is there any public comment on this motion?
See none online.
Seeing none. Ms. Kendall, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Matheson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Moving right along to ordinance second reading, item number 11, Lakeside Marketplace CPUD amendment. This is a quasi judicial matter. Mr. Mortel, will you please read the ordinance into the record?
This is ordinance number 2445-2020, an ordinance of the City of Stuart, Florida, amending ordinance number 1601-97, which assigned commercial planned unit development zoning to an 11.42 acre parcel of land located on the south side of Southeast Marketplace, east of US Highway 1, being more fully described by Exhibit A attached, providing for master site plan approval, development conditions, a timetable for development, and mandatory platting for a 4.02 acre portion of annexed parcel number F21 to accommodate 24,000 square feet of commercial development known as Lakeside Marketplace CPUD. declaring the proposed development to be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for a severability clause, acceptance by the applicant, an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Mortel. I understand that you have or are in the works on revising the quasi-judicial cheat sheet for yours truly. So if there's a deviance.
There's nothing new for tonight. but,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Help me along if I miss anything. Do the commissioners have any ex parte communications to disclose? We'll start with you, Commissioner Bruner.
No, sir, none. I'm here with an open mind.
I have none since the last meeting, and I'm here with an open mind.
Mr. Mayor, I've only spoken with staff and some residents, but I always have an open mind.
I have had no ex parte communications since first reading, and I am here with an open mind. Mr. Reeds? Oh, I beg your pardon. Do we swear in any people giving testimony, Mr. Mortel?
We do, if it's going to be,
Can it change? Okay, there's a
so I
change.
mean, if anybody's going to testify to it, we have to. So is it you? Okay, so please raise your right hand.
Why don't we swear in anybody that, in case there are questions, that would give testimony?
Is there anyone online?
I don't think there's anybody on.
Is there anybody online from the applicant side? No?
Let the record reflect that I have 5 people being sworn. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record reflect that I think everybody testified affirmatively behind their masks. And if you could please state your name when you testify.
Thank you, Mr. Mortel. Mr. Reeds?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Tom Reeds, Senior Planner for the record. There are 2 small changes to the Lakeside Marketplace for second reading, and I'll go over them now. So the plating and updated, there's been an updated legal description that has been added, and then also a condition that moves plat approval from permitting to certificate of occupancy, and that is the 2 changes. The applicant's attorney is here for clarification if there are any questions.
Simple Pimple, are there any questions?
Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner.
I just wanted to ask, when was the first time they came before us, if anyone has that date? The
I
first reading?
I believe it was
July 13th.
Yeah, this
Okay.
month.
All right, thank you.
If there's no changes, Mayor, to this proposed ordinance number 2445-2020, I know that Mr. Reed said that he has these 2 small changes.
Yes, these are the changes, legal description and the condition for plating.
So those things, can we approve ordinance number 2445-2020 with those changes unless there's any objections from the developer themselves or?
If that's your motion.
Commissioners? That's my motion.
Do I have-
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Clark to approve with staff recommended changes regarding plotting and updated legal description, and a second by Commissioner Bruner. Did I get your motion right, Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Is there any public comment on this item?
See none online.
Seeing none in person or online. Ms. Kendall, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Commissioner Matheson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 12, Stewart Spring Tree, RPUD. This is a future land use map and rezoning. This is also a quasi-judicial matter. Mr. Mortel, would you kindly read the ordinance into the record?
This is ordinance number 2427-2020, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, amending the future land use map of the city's comprehensive plan, thereby assigning a future land use designation of multifamily residential for 3 parcels equaling 13.59 acres, annexed by ordinance number 2352-2017, owned by Stewart 13 Acres LLC, Tierra del Lago, Inc., and Stewart Harbor Marina and Yacht Club, located west of Southeast Federal Highway, south of Southeast Harrison Street, and north of the Natalie Estates Mobile Home Park, with said lands being more fully described in Exhibit A attached. and further providing that said lands shall concurrently establish the Stewart Springtree Residential Planned Unit Development, RPUD, consisting of 270 multifamily units within 6 individual 4-story apartment buildings and 1 3-story building, approving a development site plan, providing for development conditions and a timetable for development, declaring the plan to be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, providing directions to the city clerk, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Mortel. Would you please swear in anybody giving testimony?
If those giving testimony, could please rise and raise your right hand. Let the record reflect there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people being sworn. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record reflect all of those testifying testified affirmatively. And if you could please state your name when speaking to the commission, I would appreciate it for the record. Thank you.
Are there anybody from the applicant side attending virtually that would need to be sworn?
There is,
No.
we missed them.
Oh, 1 hour.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I've spoken with some of the applicant's team, with residents and staff, and I'm again here with an open mind.
Thank you for the reminder. Commissioner Bruner, do you have any ex parte communication to disclose?
No, sir. And I'm here with an open mind.
Vice Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, I've spoken to staff and I've spoken to the applicant's attorney, and I'm here with an open mind.
I have spoken with staff and residents since first reading, and I am here with an open mind.
And Mr. Mayor, I must say that I have read communications from Commissioner Stacy Hetherington from the Martin County Board of County Commissioners, District 2 representative. And I'm not sure if her communication regarding this project needs to be in the record, but I did read a communication from her.
Thank you
And I've
for,
also read communication from several residents.
yes, thank you. Mr. Reitz?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom Reese again, Senior Planner for the record. This is the second reading for Stewart Springtree. If you remember, on May 11th, it passed and was approved on first reading. Staff transmitted the package to the Department of Economic Opportunity. We received a letter back from the department with no comment. They did give us a technical comment that as soon as we finished our EAR proposal, that be transmitted. That was transmitted by staff on the 14th. We did, Commissioner, you mentioned we did get the letters from Martin County. The traffic engineer for the applicant has responded to those comments. The comment basically was asking if we could make, or if the applicant could make the median cut larger so they could handle northbound traffic. And the response from the applicant's traffic engineer was basically no. It would cause a T-bone type situation. Cars could not stack in that median. The applicant's engineer is available, I believe, online if you have questions. We also,
Here.
okay. We also received comments from South Florida Water Management. This applicant's civil engineer has responded to those, basically asking if there was a capacity, and then also if Martin County had given us their letter that they would supply the project with water.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to interrupt so we can return to DEO quickly, just because there were a couple items in the agenda attachments in case anybody is scrutinizing this project that might sound confusing. We initially submitted to DEO, which is the state agency that reviews development projects. They responded with no comment. You did say that they gave us a technical comment, which was we still have to supply our EAR draft before they would approve it. So we supplied EAR. They acknowledged receipt of EAR, so we are in full compliance with DEO regarding this development project, even though with EAR, we are still waiting on, there was no comment from DEO, even though we're still waiting on other state agency approval of EAR. It has no bearing on this development project because this is consistent with our comp plan prior to any EAR edits. So
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that summary. That was very good. And lastly and finally, the applicant has agreed to contribute $8,000 for the continuation of the sidewalk on the southern end, or the south, on the bottom of Springtree Place, all the way to the Springtree single-family development. The applicant's agent is here for a short presentation.
before I call the applicant up, I also wanted to address the traffic, the FDOT letter, or the traffic engineer's letter referencing the FDOT's opinion. Because I know that when we discussed this, or when I went and presented to the Martin County Commission staff, and I presented to the Martin County Commission about our pending development projects in the city, there was an idea floated by Commissioner Smith and/or Commissioner Hetherington about a long-range planning that would involve a light that would connect an entrance exit at the Springtree project with some future development across the street in that large industrial or commercial zone property, which is outside the city limits. So, or it's not, is it?
Yeah, the old Slater Street is in the city limits.
It is in the city limits,
Right.
but we have no pending development projects on there.
There's no pending.
And
development, yes.
and the FDOT said that Springtree does not warrant a signal there. So unfortunately, we can't hold a development hostage on that idea.
Can we touch on that for a second, Mr. Mayor? And
Yes.
The vacant parcel across the street has an ingress and egress. But hypothetically, a year from now, 10 years, 5 years from now, that could get developed. And that ingress and egress is entirely variable. There's a road on the northern side of that parcel, and the frontage on US 1 is longer than the Springtree parcel. So that ingress and egress could change in the future. So what you just said touched on it, that the proposal from the county, when you presented in front of them, was for us to mandate this development proposal, which is ready to go and now has already passed evaluation by what you just stated. The DEO, the Department of Economic Opportunity, approved a comp plan review and change for it. And we are to hold all that hostage because there's curb cuts on a vacant land across the street, and they should line up their plans to align with those curb cuts, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Reitz, a new project could come into that vacant land across the street and redo those curb cuts.
That's correct.
To be sufficient with their project.
Line up with the Springtree access egress to the more north of the project, yes. It
So-
could be realigned
So just for the record,
across the street.
those curb cuts across the street, they're not set in stone by any means. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I guess we'll have the applicant present, or the agent for the applicant. Mr. Houston, if you would kindly keep your mask on when you give comment. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the commission. Mr. Mayor, Michael Houston with HGA Design Studio here with Terry McCarthy from McCarthy Summers, Howard Ersham from Bowman Consulting, and Sean McKenzie, our traffic engineer with his own company. I'm going to be very brief this evening, but we do have a couple of slides that we put together just to show you guys a couple of the things that I think are important. And so here's the site plan, and we've been here before. We've gone through the comprehensive plan. We've gone through the land development regulations. We've talked about the PUD. We've talked about buffers, and we're now talking about access. And as you can see along the right-hand side, that is US 1. The entrance we shifted out of Coral Gardens to the north, and now has an access off of US 1, which will allow us to use this stacking
U-turn right here, which is very similar to the one that's down here. That's used by a lot of people that go to work down in this industrial park. One of the keys for the project is how it meets the city's PUD standards, and it needs to exceed the minimum requirements. So one of the keys here is the 49% open space provided. City's requirement is for 30%. And as you've heard numerous times, the demand and the need for apartments in Stewart is very significant. So the change that took place where we had our access that was going to Harrison, we removed that and kind of took off the table the issue about traffic calming in Coral Gardens. And now you can see the new entrance, which is right here. It is a great entrance to get into this stacked left turn or left or U-turn, which is not used now at all. And this whole area is now upland preserve as compared to, we had preserve, but it was separated in half by the access road. Some of the other elements of the buffer and the reduction in the one building to the third story. This building up here to the north, as you know, is now 3 stories instead of 4. The road and the improvements that Mr. Eats just talked about is the extension of this sidewalk here, 210 feet. This sidewalk does not exist today. The improvements that we're talking about at the entrance don't exist. This sidewalk here doesn't exist, and these connections. So there'll be sidewalks on both sides up to the entrance of the community, and improvements with lighting, street lighting, and I think significantly this new sidewalk. So as Tom mentioned, we're now proposing and have accepted a condition that would build 210 or provide dollars that we've estimated at $8,000 to build a 210-foot sidewalk to the gate of Springtree, a single-family community to the west of us. This is a letter that Sean's office provided in response to the county's comment about the intersection and creating the potential future light. It has significant safety issues. It has significant hurdles from a DOT perspective, and Sean goes through those. He's here this evening if anyone has any questions. Thank you very much, and we are looking forward to building this great project in the city of Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Houston.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Terry McCarthy, just want to introduce for the record proof that the notices to surrounding property owners were sent out.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. If you'd give that to Ms. Kendall, please. Well,
We're going to take public comment or discuss first.
Can the traffic, Sean, come up? Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
McKinsey?
Good evening, Sean McKenzie with McKenzie Engineering and Planning, 1172 Southwest 30th Street, Palm City, Florida.
So can you address the request that was made to FDOT or the reasons why you couldn't do a full widening of the median to drive across 3 lanes of US 1 to turn north?
Yeah, certainly. Because we wanted to explore all the different options that in getting a new connection over to US 1. When looking at, and we explored an option of putting an opening here, what you find is that with the high speeds on US 1, this would be a 50% variance from the department's normal standards to put a full opening here, which I have seen that occur, but we're talking about a project that would not warrant a signal. So you're talking about vehicles making a left turn movement out of this location against traffic moving at 45 to 50 miles an hour at a, roughly 1,000 to 1,300 feet up there, and putting them in an unsafe location. So we do not anticipate the department would support that location as a full opening. And what we then recognized is there is a pretty large burden at Grand Park Way with the amount of industrial that's down here. So in order to relieve that situation and provide our residents with good access and not burden anybody from Springtree with additional traffic down further south, By locating at the entrance further north, we easily allow everyone to come out, make a U-turn at Slater Street, and when they're getting back, coming back home, they can again make a U-turn. If it's coming from Stewart, they just come right in. If they're coming from the south, then they can just make a U-turn at Jefferson Street and then come right in. And again, avoid a lot of the congestion. And we know from Department of Transportation Safeties, making a right turn and a U-turn is a much safer operation than making a direct left turn out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Are there any other questions for Mr. McKenzie regarding traffic?
No.
No, thank you, sir.
And is the representative from Bowman Engineering here to discuss stormwater?
Yes. Howard Erson with Bowman Consulting, 301 Southeast Ocean.
So there's been some concern from residents or surrounding residents of potential runoff, especially with the record rains we've had, in Martin County and some areas getting flooded. And the concern is regarding projects that might be under construction. So can you describe how you're going to guarantee all the stormwater will be retained on site, even during construction? And of course, once it's all completed, I think everyone can get that with the water retention area in the center. But my concern and the residents are how would the construction be phased so that the neighbors, say to the north in Coral Gardens or Spring Tree, are assured that if there are major rain events, the water is retained on site?
Yes, the project will be phased accordingly, where the pond is one of the first things to be constructed. So our dewatering operation and construction operation will retain on site. And we've been coordinating with Martin County on their discharge requirements and Zero Canal, and that it would be permitted through Martin County, and no off-site discharge would be allowable until that permit was achieved.
Okay, so the permits, Martin County would have to issue the permits.
It's two different permits. You got South Florida,
Mhm.
the water management, and Martin County. Both permits would be needed in order to do any off-site.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, and that requires a memorandum of understanding, Mr. Mortel? Or we could,
Permit application.
Just a
Yeah, I mean, it's not, there's no secondary formal document.
okay. Somebody.
We'll be taking public comment. Do I have a
That's all my questions.
Commissioner Bruner? Do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, all my questions were answered, especially for all the people that have been emailing us and come before us, their concerns, and I believe mostly all of them have been met. This hasn't been an easy project for all of us, but we haven't had anything built in so long, and we haven't had anything like this ever. So anyway, I'm okay, and I think we need it, and I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Second.
We'll take public comment before we call the vote, which is what we
Yes,
normally
sir.
do. Thank you, Commissioner Bruner. I have a motion, and I have a second by Vice Mayor Clark. Is that correct?
Yes.
A motion by Vice Mayor Clark. And we will take public comment now. First up, I have Ms. Janet Henrich.
If anyone online would like to give public comment, please click raise hand.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. I'm a resident of Natalie Estates. My husband and I moved here after we retired because we liked the atmosphere of Stewart, the small town feel, the friendliness, and we were happy to leave behind the overcrowding, the tall buildings, the overgrowth, the traffic that we experienced further south. With this proposed development, we're going to be facing those same issues here. There are several issues that I still don't feel have been addressed properly. The proposed 4-story multi-unit structures with 270 family units will be an eyesore on Route 1. It does not fit into our community area. The height of the structures would guarantee a loss of privacy for surrounding areas with full views of our properties. I had an understanding that Martin County did not allow any such units in that particular area, and that's one of the reasons we purchased there. The stormwater drainage, I still don't think has been properly addressed. It's an issue. It's one that greatly affects us. It's an issue that Martin County seems to be struggling with to keep the drainage ditches effective. It appears as though the drainage would need to be, more drainage would need to be added on the other side of Route 1. The project plans in their present form would increase the stormwater problems in our neighboring communities. We have had so much flooding that we can't get out of our community. We have to use the adjacent community to get in and out. They have had issues where they've had to get in and out of our route as well. Route 1 is a very busy roadway with the impact of 270 households. Now think, when this was first proposed, we were told there'd be efficiencies in 1 and 2 bedrooms. That has since escalated into 1 to 3 bedrooms in those structures. Think of how many people that's going to represent, how many cars that's going to represent, how many children that's going to represent for our overcrowded schools that we are right now facing dilemmas with, trying to space out the children and keep everyone safe. Think about the crowding in our area. The traffic resulting from this will be a real problem too. Proposed development did not address how the southern boundary community, now the estates, will be protected from this negative impact. And we do not have that buffer zone. The developer has not indicated how they plan to be good neighbors or adequately address the benefit of their project to us. The schools in Martin County are presently at maximum capacity, and in most cases, school buses stopping outside our community are already an issue with our older population, where the average age of our residents in the upper 70s. Some of them much older. The traffic congestion getting in and out of the community is tough already. I can't imagine what it would be like with this proposed development. There's a continuous turning lane which stretches from in front of Springtree development to the front of Natalie Estates. It will add to the traffic confusion that's already there and will be added to. Please do not approve this project in its present form. This project would certainly cause us many problems. I think it would be a detriment to our area. I think there's much better places in Stuart where you could consider putting such a development. This is not the proper location for that development. It's going to put our residents at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henrich. Next, we have Ms. Connie Dodson.
Hi, I'm Connie Dodson. I'm a resident of Natalie Estates, and I'm also a member of their board of directors. Most people I know moved to Stuart because they liked the area. There was no urban sprawl. There were no, big apartment complexes. And this was the look they were looking for. I don't object to the theory, but I object to the location. 4-story apartment buildings don't belong overlooking residential neighborhoods that are all one-family homes. As Janet said, our residents are 55 and over. There's no buffer zone against our property. You've got Springtree Preserve, and you've got a park and stuff or whatever it is on the other side. We just have the road, and it comes very close to our property lines. the 270 apartments, it was 280 when we got a registered letter, 270 is, and it's, okay, then what was it, 10% studio? I don't know, I saw the figures, but originally it was supposed to be studio 1 and 2 bedroom. Now it's moved up. Too many people in too small an area, too many kids, doesn't fit in with the surroundings. And I don't know of anybody who lives near it that is happy with this project. How's the city storage system? Is that okay to handle all of this? And let's see. Traffic will be a nightmare. Noise pollution. Our neighborhood is very quiet. So is Springtree. By 8, 9 o'clock at night, you might hear a few cars going by on Route 1, but that's it. With all these people, cars, children moving in next door, our peace is going to be gone. Janet brought up the drainage issues as well. I've lived at Natalie Estates for 12 years. The rains we had the beginning of June was the first time I saw the canal that runs behind Natalie Estates, Springtree, Coral Gardens. For the first time it flooded into Natalie Estates. We asked the county if they could dredge the canal. They said no. So we fear that we're going to have even more flooding because the little forest is going to disappear. The school department can't handle that many more kids. I don't know where all these people are coming from that are going to move into these apartments, but at this point, and with the COVID, and that's not going to disappear anytime soon, we don't need big apartment buildings moving in to a one-family residential area.
Thank you, Ms. Dodson.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Deborah Platt. Thank you, Ms. Platt.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Platt, and I'm a resident of Natalie Estates. We are a 55-plus co-op community with 166 mobile homes. We directly border the south side of this property that is requesting a future land use change for the purpose of 270 apartment complex on the 13.9 acres. As I have spoken before, my first concern is our residents' ability to safely exit heading northbound, because we have to head south to then make the U-turn and head north. So we have to cross 3 lanes and roughly 352 yards to the turn lane where we proceed to make our U-turn. Navigating across 3 lanes in a short distance and a heavy traffic and a speed limit of 45 miles per hour is challenging now. From what I can distinguish in the traffic impact analysis, my specific concern is not addressed, nor does it include Southeast Carroll Street, which is the road just south of us, which has the same process as Natalie Estate to head north. I timed the Monroe light this morning during the AM peak hour, and it was consistently ran 30 seconds. So we had 30 seconds for 5 roads. Now that's if they're going to be heading south. For all 5 to take their turns and to get out there. The traffic from Spring Tree that will be just shooting across and making their U-turn there, that won't be a problem. But it's the ones that are heading to Salerno Road, Cove Road, I-95. So anyway, as of now, we have 30 seconds for the 5 streets. In this analysis, page 1 of the executive summary, it says the proposed project is expected to generate the following net external and driveway trips: 1,470, 91 AM peak hour, 24 in, 67 out. If I'm interpreting this correctly, of the 1,470 projected in and out daily traffic, only 67, which is 4.6%, is projected exiting out during the AM peak hour. And this estimate really seems low to me. Regardless, the exiting southbound traffic will have a negative effect on our community. My second concern is drainage, as Natalie Estate is overall very low. We have drainage issues now. Just a few weeks ago, during a heavy rain, several cars had to park along US 1, where they sat until the water level receded. All it takes is a poorly maintained pipe with debris to block and alter the designated overflow. I look at Hope Heights, who did not have flooding issues and suddenly do now. Did newer developments cause this with higher level of elevation requirements? You have to ask. I would like to remind you all that 3 neighborhoods bordering this site are single-family homes. If anyone thinks this is compatible, I got some swampland to sell you. This proposed monstrosity will be like skyscrapers beside all of us. The single-family homes in Spring Tree would never have the same sunrise again, as it is located directly west. I have lived in Martin County for 43 years. I have seen developer after developer make their money and then move on. The residents are left with all the consequences. Constant redesign roadways, a need for a new bridge.
Thank you, Ms. Platt.
Please don't do it to us.
Thank you. Finally, I have Ms. Jessica Roberts. If you would like to give public comment, please approach Ms. Kindle and collect a green card to fill out.
Hi, my name's Jessica Roberts, and I'm actually here on behalf of my grandfather who lives in Natalie Estates and couldn't be here tonight. And my name is also on the deed for his lot that he owns in Natalie Estates. I echo the concerns of these women. I think they've all researched this really well. And I actually came up to ask a question, and that is, obviously, I mean, there's been discussion and there are buffer zones for Coral Gardens now after the first reading because people had concerns. So you have a lot of residents in Natalie Estates who may not pay as much property tax, but they are equally important residents, and they picked this part of Stewart for specific reasons. And I also agree that to have 4-story buildings like this put in between 3 single family, mostly, I think all single family homes is a little bit ridiculous when there's so much other available land within a 2 or 3 mile radius in Martin County. If you're gonna rezone things, you could rezone somewhere else. My question is this: of all of the Natalie Estates residents, how many other residents besides my grandfather have been notified and signed that they are aware of what's happening? Maybe the project manager has that answer.
I don't know that there's a requirement that anybody sign anything, so I doubt that it's anybody.
I think typically we are required to, or the applicant is required to provide proof that notice was given within a certain radius.
Okay, so when you say that, how does that rule work in a neighborhood? Is there a certain percentage of the neighborhood that has to be given notice, or is it the board of the homeowners association?
300 feet.
Property owners within
A
300
lot of
feet.
times a mobile home park could have a single owner because it's a single parcel, and therefore the landlord would have received the notice, and it would be up
That's
to the
not the
landlord to
case for
disseminate the
Natalie
information to
Estates.
the tenants.
It's resident owned, so you have 140.
So the board would have
owners.
received the notice.
The board received the notice? Okay, I would just like to recommend that before this is approved, that you consider the reality that next door you have not just a board, but you have this whole neighborhood of landowners who, most of which I'd say probably, I could be wrong, you're on the board, I'd say 80% of I teach yoga there. And I know a lot of these people really well for 10 years now. They're close friends of mine, and they're all out of town. And so I would just say this is something that needs to be postponed until at least half of them can be formally notified of what's going on. And that's my comment.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts.
I have one commenter online, sir.
Have they identified themselves?
Ms. Susan Bowman.
Ms. Bowman?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Ms.
Okay,
Bowman.
well, thank you for your time. You guys, we've all been so well behaved through all this. You have had a lot of comments. You know, I've been there every time. I couldn't this time. There was no posting for this meeting. I always watch for those post boards, and you guys did not post this meeting on those boards. And I want to say, I don't appreciate Commissioner Bruner moving to take a vote before even hearing public comment. That does not show for an open mind, and I feel like that's how this whole hearing has been. I met with everyone individually with the exception of the mayor, who was not available at the 3 different times I tried to meet with him. The $8,000 contribution, is that just a contribution and we're responsible for anything additional? And that's what our community gets in that RPUD as a surrounding highly impacted community. They're gonna throw $8,000 our way. The traffic study is horribly flawed. As you all know, it's very slanted in the developer's way. We cannot afford our own traffic study. Also, it's not unheard of for money to be put in escrow by the developer for a traffic light if needed. That is very common that that happens. You guys know that this is not compatible. Martin County commissioners, when they called you to that hearing, even said that the optics did not look good for this project. I'm sure no one appreciated being called there. I totally get it, but that is the truth. The optics do not look good. This project does not belong. Our pond right now, our retention pond, is higher than it's ever been. We had people come out and look at it, and they say the water table in this entire area is so saturated right now. That's why our pond is not draining or going down. The Martin County utilities cannot handle your City of Stuart project. I was also told by Commissioner Matheson and other commissioners that, so don't worry, many times these projects get walked back to 3 stories. If this gets walked back to 3 stories, we're now at the height of a 4-story building. Those buildings are the height of 5-story buildings anywhere else in the City of Stuart that I've driven to. And I'm going to say this final thing. We can't vote for you, but we can show up at the polling places. And I know you guys are going to vote yes. You've made that clear from the beginning. You should be ashamed of yourselves. We will be at the polling places. I know Matheson, you're up for re-election. Best of luck to all of you in your careers in the City of Stuart, because you will never, ever get elected.
Sorry, we're gonna cut you short. I'm sorry, Ms. Bowman. And just so for everyone's edification, it's occasionally for large items, especially controversial items, usually on first reading, when we have a lot of public comments, we will take them before a vote is called, but 99% of the time, public comment occurs after a motion is made and seconded before the vote is called. Is there any other public comment here? Or any online, sir?
See no further comment online.
I apologize. I apologize to you, Commissioner Matheson. I'm sorry that I should have stopped her a little earlier there.
No worries, Mayor.
Can I ask a question before Miss
Sure.
Becky? Miss Betty?
Ms. McBride.
Ms. McBride. That's
I've
okay.
had last
My mother never
problem
can say
all
all her
day.
names, so.
Mr. Martell, in a comment such as was made which violated the campaign and so on, do we strike her comment from the record or do we?
It's not
just
evidence,
discontinue?
and the more we talk about it, the more we elevate it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank
Ms.
you.
McBride.
Yes, Ellen McBride. I live in the city of Stuart. I have for 48 years, and I love children. And when they first brought this idea, I own a 4-bedroom house, and well, the kids are trying to get me to downsize. This is the kind of place I'd want to live in because it's got a room for senior citizens and the children. Thank God, the one thing keeping me in my neighborhood is the young people coming in and buying these large homes have children. And boy, it's given an extra step. Now, I'm 83 years old. And thank you. And it is. The kids, you watch them, they, like walking to J.D. Parker, they give you a good smile on your face to watch children. But remember, I vote for the county commissioners too, and I vote for my city commissioners. This is a betterment for the city of Stuart. And there are a lot of young people who can't, especially now, going to be able to afford their homes for probably the next 5 years. We need rented apartments. And I talked to some school board members, and yes, it's like when I first moved here in '72, yeah, it was a big crowd, those of us who moved here then, an influx of people. But the school board, and then that's why they have all these new schools, and they're building more schools, bigger and better. So just think for the people, the working guys, and us senior citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McBride.
Mr. Mayor, I have a few questions for our staff and then
Yes,
perhaps
Commissioner.
the applicants. First, if the schools did not have capacity, could this project legally move forward? Did they have to
The school
review?
board, the school board would have to sign off on it. I think it could legally move forward, but we'd have to adjust it. But in this particular case, capacity has been addressed and the applicant would have to pay the special per student station and to provide that capacity. And they did not have to do that.
That's correct.
So the school board has reviewed it.
They
There
have.
is capacity, is that correct?
Yes, there is. Each student station is identified by each school, and they
That's a
identify
lie.
how many high school.
That's
how
a
many
lie.
school,
They
how
have to pay an impact.
many-
Can we please mute Ms. Bowman?
The surrounding notices to all property owners within 300 feet. That's city policy. Is the county the same? Surrounding notices to 300 feet?
Maybe.
I think it's 300.
It may be 5 and it's just 500 in the county, but essentially the same.
Mr. Freeman? 300. And you used to work at the county, is that correct?
I don't know if they changed the code in the interim. They could have done. When I
Yeah.
was there, it was 300.
Yeah.
May have changed in the interim.
Okay.
Everyone's talking.
We just had an engineer under oath come up and
Please.
state that all the stormwater runoff would be held on property and that the lake would be created first, and that Martin County would have to permit the project and South Florida Water Management District. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So an engineer under oath designing the stormwater runoff stated those facts. Okay, we've addressed the schools, the drainage. One other thing that I keep thinking of is impact fees. And do we have anyone here that could tell me how much impact fees that will go to the county will be generated by this project?
Just the transportation impact fees will be over $1 million.
So if this project happens, looking at transportation now, your engineer, traffic engineer has signed off on it. Does FDOT have to approve that? A third party, City of Stuart has no connection to FDOT, but they have to approve the traffic patterns. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, Martin County will generate roughly $1 million of impact fees for capacity improvements. is that just for traffic?
Just for traffic.
So they would be separate?
Martin County's
Drainage?
overall impact fees, and Mr. Freeman can be a little more specific to the city, but are about $12,000 a unit, maybe a little less for the apartments. So the math would say that's 2.8 million.
I'm wondering to my fellow commissioners if, you know, and who knows how it will be received, but we could send a letter to the county encouraging that these impact fees are used appropriately around the surrounding area. We had heard a few comments here of residents concerned of drainage. It sounded like, to me, like those comments, the drainage issues, as we all know, are already existing in Martin County. This project is going to retain all of its stormwater runoff. But a letter, perhaps, who knows how far it'll go, from the city encouraging the county to address some of those drainage issues and traffic issues that seem to already be existing with the impact fees generated from this project might be in order. It may or may not do something, but I don't see it hurting to try to encourage the county to use those impact fees appropriately.
Let's
Mr. Mayor.
ask Mr. Freeman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We do have a meeting coming up where we are discussing staff level with the county on the discussion that we first heard at that joint meeting, where we raised the rational nexus piece of the state statute. Part of that, the reasoning from the county's point of view that they couldn't allocate impact fees that they were receiving from city projects to county infrastructure, was that they didn't have a capital improvement sheet that would allow them to do that. So we're initiating, I'm working with the city manager on this, a staff level discussion regarding actually implementing a capital improvement sheet, which would directly allow those impact fees to be moved to specific rational nexus to the projects that we're talking about. And if you're correctly identified, there's a lot of issues here that are directly related to the county infrastructure not performing as it should. And that, you know, we're generating impact fees, and this development is generating impact fees that are going to the county. And so those impact fees should really be used to improve
the surrounding.
Yes.
Commissioner, just to follow up on Mr. Freeman's point, rather than us send a letter and maybe escalate it politically, perhaps staff can work it out and we'll take it from there. And I think this would be a good topic for discussion for if we can hopefully have at our joint city county school district meeting.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner.
As another point of reference, the Martin County LDR land use regulation 10.6.e provides mailing notice to up to 500 feet of the boundaries, but Natalie Estates would have been within the 300 to 500 anyway, because the board would have gotten it for all of them.
Okay.
So Mr. Urshan's comment, going back to Commissioner Meth's, your comment was that this would be permanent, just like a Martin County project. It holds the water the same way, goes into the canal the same way. The standards are the same. And that's the comment that we received in the email from the county.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Houston.
May I?
Yes, Vice Mayor?
Okay, so I had some of the same comments. The school concurrency, which I call it, that's been covered. I don't have any problems with it. I don't have any problems with the drainage issue, and I'm not sure if Commissioner Hetherington's letter or something that I've read somewhere, I think they're working on drainage with the county. They're coming up with some plans, but as we stated, we're gonna let staff try to work with that. With regard to the notice issue, and I was concerned about Ms. Roberts' question and the other board member from the HOA question, I think staff has answered it. Maybe Mr. McCarty knows specifically whether the homeowners association only for Natalie Estates was notified, or if those people within the actual 300 to 500, well, ours is 300, the 300 boundary was notified. But I think that I am aware that Mr. McCarty is a professional who has done this before, and not looking at the list that he handed to to our clerk, I believe that they followed the directions. So I think that, to me, Natalie Estates has been sufficiently noticed. The thing that I wanted to bring up, which I think the lady on the line who had talked about, was about possibly the transition between Coral Gardens on the north side, as well as transition between the proposed development and Spring Tree. And now Ms. Roberts has asked again to look at Natalie Estates to the south. I think that we've looked a lot at the north, and we talked about the 3-story change. And we also looked and talked about before with regard to the folks in Spring Tree. And I have talked to the developer, and I'm asking if possibly either on their property where they have, I think it's about 50 feet of landscaping, if either they can make that thicker and higher as much as possible, so that that gradient of when you look over, some of that will be taken care of. Or if there's a possibility, I'll ask if they can work or coordinate something with the Spring Tree folks, to, if people want to consider that, put it as a condition to assist with putting maybe an extra 15 feet of landscaping all along the Spring Tree line. So it's either to make their landscaping thicker, better, and very complete, so that we can have a very dense situation. And if that can be explained, I'll go along with that. If we think that there might be the need to do something to help them with their preserve area and to help them develop that so that it adds to what's on the property side, that's something. And then with regard to the south boundary for Natalie Estates, across the street from where the road goes, I believe that there's enough buffer there, and there's a road there that has been going there, and there's going to be a sidewalk there, the possibility of having a place for students to be. I don't think that there's any buffer conflict from the way those buildings are and coming to that entrance on Spring Tree Drive and then across at Natalie Estates. So I'm satisfied with that. I'm satisfied with the roadway situation that I know one of the ladies brought up turning, going up and making a U-turn and coming back. I'm not sure if that's what you're doing now or if because the new entrance is causing a change, but I think that US 1 has been designed, and even the new design that would come in with the new entrance that will make it, I think the traffic engineer explained that I think it's a good plan. And I don't think that it will be so much of a disruption there with the number of homes that are going to be coming out. So I've listened and I've tried. I think that staff and the developer has tried to assist. I hear that now Natalie Estates, is here tonight, and I appreciate you coming. And I know that the folks from Coral Gardens and from Spring Tree have come before, and we've heard from them. They've had very good points. I think the developer has gone back and made some changes, and we've heard from the state of Florida on their suggestions with regard to the actual plan amendment itself. And I believe that we're all working to the best solution.
Is that a motion?
So no, I think that we had made a motion on the table.
Yeah, but she was
Commissioner
looking for
Bruner.
amendments.
Yeah.
Here's correct. If she was looking
Yeah,
for
okay,
amendments.
that would be to, and I'll discuss that if it's something that that Mr. Reeds think would be a good thing to add additional landscape buffer, or if that landscape buffer that is already on their property side as proposed is good enough, then I think that we should be okay.
I'd like to see a Google view of it. Maybe the applicant has an idea of how opaque there are. It looks like maybe Areca palms or something that exists now. Maybe the applicant can talk about the existing condition on the south side.
On the south side or?
The south side, I guess we're talking about the south side of the right-of-way of
South
Spring
and
Tree
west.
Lane.
Yes,
Yeah, the
yes.
south side is a very dense Areca palms that
Okay.
pretty well screen that entire edge.
And those won't be removed as you build the
The
sidewalk.
sidewalk will be just adjacent to the roadway. There'll probably be some regrading of the road, but yeah, those will remain.
And to the west, along the preserve with Spring
Yeah.
Tree?
You know, the issue there is that the preserve area, which is all through here, this is so dense. And I've taken some pictures from inside the community. This is so dense along here, there's really no room to plant a tree. We actually brought that up in our initial meeting with Spring Tree, and there really wasn't a lot of interest in it. As we said in our cross section, this is 420, 430 feet. We have a real heavy planting here, both the existing pines, which are primarily here, and then we're supplementing those. So it's going to be a very heavy buffer, but they're literally, this preserve, it's scrubby, but right there you can see the line. And it, I think I had an aerial that I showed you last time.
Yes.
It's really heavy in that spot. Not big pines, but saw palmetto and things that really make it difficult to get in there and put in any other plants.
And what's the history of flooding on this actual parcel?
Howard might be able to answer that. The first time I've heard flooding, but you know, obviously this storm we had was pretty significant. You know, the connections underneath US 1 have been discussed with FDOT and the county, as well as the state, not just here, but particularly south of here, down at
To
Concord
bring
Road.
water through from
Yeah.
the roadway?
Yeah, conveyance. And what's
Okay.
downstream from this, one of the comments, for public comments, was what's the downstream, which is this right here. That is part of what the county is looking at downstream.
But just to, if I can step on that, just to reiterate again and again, this project per city code must retain all of its stormwater. With the pond and the retention area and.
Yeah, just so we're clear, it's a 25-year storm event, and that's the amount of rain that comes out in a typical 25. The rain in the Memorial Day was substantial. But yeah, that is the design. And so conveyance usually is a problem, but a site like this that has a canal to the north of it, that's great outfall. Just needs to make sure the county is maintaining it.
Okay.
And I don't mean on our site, we'll be working on that as well, but downstream.
So I understand that Commissioner Bruner has made a motion. Is there a second?
I had second.
Okay,
And I'm not making.
you're not making any.
Amendment or anything. I think that it seems that we've adequately discussed all the points.
We've worked hard on it.
Okay. Well, I suppose we'll go ahead and call the vote if there's no other discussion point among my colleagues. Ms. Kendall, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Matheson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruner,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing as that was our final item on this agenda, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:58 p.m.
Thank you, Commissioner Bruner.
Thank you, and our mayor, thank you.